Chag Sameach. So, just to continue what we were discussing yesterday, we were starting with the first Mishnah, Pirke Avot, and we talked about the Shalshelet, we talked about the chain, the unbroken chain that exists from the time when Moshe Rabbeinu received the Torah Har Sinai, all the way until Anshe, Kenesset, HaGedolah. And Pirke Avot is subsequently going to go through from Anshe, Kenesset, HaGedolah and on, and it's going to talk about what were the sayings of the Chachamim. Why doesn't Pirke Avot mention the sayings of Moshe, or the sayings of Yehoshua, and the sayings of the Nevi'im, and the sayings of the Zikanim? Right? It goes right away, goes through the Shalshelet, gets to Anshe Kenesset HaGedolah, and then discusses the from there and on, it gives sayings. So the real answer to that is, open up the Tanakh. If a person wants to see, what did Moshe Rabbeinu, what did he say? You look at Eov. Moshe Rabbeinu wrote the Sefer Eov. If a person wants to see what Yehoshua wrote, look at Sefer Yehoshua. If a person wants to see what Shmuel wrote, look at Sefer Shmuel. If a person wants to see what the Shoftim wrote, so if a person wants to see any of the, how to learn what the first bunch said, we have that all contained within the Tanakh. Now, when we get beyond the close of the Tanakh, which is at Anshe Kenesset HaGedolah, when there was no more additions to the Tanakh was sealed, and the Chachamim decided which Sfarim were going to be part of the Tanakh and which Sfarim were not going to be part of the Tanakh. Now we have to talk about what these Chachamim had to say, because that's no longer included within what we would call Scripture. So the first thing is, what did Anshe Kenesset HaGedolah say? They said three things. First thing they said is Hevu Metunim Badin, which basically means when a person is going to judge, it's talking about a court, when judges are going to sit in judgment of a fellow, a person should do the judgment in a proper time, which means a person should take their time to listen to the evidence, to hear it out, to ask the proper questions. Because dayanim that are sitting and they're doing things chick-chack because they want to go to lunch or they want to take care of something, this is not going to be Torah la'amitah. This is not going to be a dayanut that's going to be proper. So we see a person should also just take their time and investigate it appropriately. This is also a remez to, God forbid, if we want to pass judgment on others, a person should not be so quick to pass judgment on others. As we say later on in Pirke Avot, it will say, don't judge your fellow until you're standing in his shoes. Only when you're standing in his shoes do you have the ability to properly judge your friend. Which basically, what does that mean? If we think about that, there's only one person's shoes you stand in, and that's your own shoes. Which means, before a person points the finger to judge somebody else, they should be judging themselves. And even when they judge themselves, be matun. Take your time. Don't be so hard on yourself. Means, don't be easy, but then again, don't be so hard on yourself. Ve'emidu talmidim harbeh. And what does it mean, ve'emidu talmidim harbeh? The simple answer is to have lots and lots of students. We said from before, the whole aspect of receiving the Torah is to be moser the Torah, is to be giving over the Torah to others. If a person is receiving the Torah and not giving it to others, then how is it a morasha? The goal is to pass it on to the next generation, to pass it on to the younger ones. A person should make efforts to have lots and lots of students. First of all, the more students a person has, the better the person is able to learn and the more is transmitted. But if we look at the word he'emidu, that's a very interesting word. He'emidu means to rise up. Generally, students don't rise up. Students are b'yeshiva. What do we call a school that children go to or adults go to when they want to learn? We call it yeshiva, which means we sit. What does it mean? He'emidu talmidim harbeh. There are many, many teachers that have expertise in teaching students. But the goal of teaching is not to make students. The goal of teaching is to make teachers, which means when a person is teaching, you should make sure that you give the students the necessary tools so that they can stand on their 2 feet. Ve'emidu talmidim harbeh. That your talmidim should be able to stand up and teach others. And if you think about it, it magnifies what you're doing. If I give a class and I teach 10 people, and those 10 people are able to teach 100 people, and those 100 people are able to teach another 100 people, do you think how much the Torah is being spread? L'hagdil Torah ul'adir. And this is be'emidu tamidim habeh. Don't just try to make students. Also, make sure that when you're teaching people how to learn. Not just to learn, but how to learn, and even more important, how to teach. And then the other thing is, ve'asu siyag la Torah. A siyag is a fence. When you have something you want to protect, you have a flower garden, and you want to make sure that the children or the animals don't get into the garden, what do? You put a fence. You put a fence around the garden. And this way what happens, you will prevent things from coming on into the garden. And if chas v'shalom somebody approaches the fence, what will be destroyed is the fence, but not the garden. The asu siyag la Torah. The Chachamim have a responsibility to do what? To create fences for the Torah. And that's because human nature, we sort of take things for granted. We're experts at rationalization. Each and every one of us can get a PhD in rationalization. We can rationalize almost anything possible. And so therefore, people have a tendency, when you have this Torah, they're going to rationalize their way till they're stepping on the mitzvot. So as the Chachamim, one of their charges, one of their tasks is to make sure that they're putting a fence around the Torah. And these are all the gezerot, and these are all the takanot. These were all the things the Chachamim added and made a siyag. And of course it says in the Torah, you're not allowed to add to the Torah, you're not allowed to subtract from the Torah. But the Chachamim are not adding to the Torah, because in no way are they saying that what they're doing is Torah. They're saying it is d'Rabbanan, it's not d'Oraita. So therefore, no one is permitted to add a mitzvah onto the 613 or subtract from the mitzvot of the 613. Because Torah Hashem temimah. If the Torah is truly temimah, which means it is shalem, it is perfect, how can you add? Once you add on to it, that means what was before was not perfect. Once you subtract, that means what you've done is what was previously was not perfect. So the Chachamim are not adding and subtracting to the Torah. They are creating fences to protect the Torah. This is within their permit. And where do we learn that the Chachamim have this ability? Where do we learn the Chachamim? First it says, Lo tasur. We are not allowed to veer from what the Chachamim tell us. It says, Yamin usmol. What does Rashi say over there? What does it mean you're not to veer to the right or to the left? Why does the Torah have to go to that detail to say? If the Chachamim tell you that your right hand is your left hand, your right hand is your left hand. If the Chachamim tell you your left hand is your right hand, then that's the way it is. Which means when we learn halakha, sometimes we use these terminologies to understand what the Chachamim are telling us is the emet. And that's why we don't veer. But we see the Torah itself puts a fence around a few mitzvot. One of the classic mitzvot the Torah puts a fence around herself is regarding to nidah. When a woman is having her menstrual cycle, the Torah says, Al tikrav legalot ervata. Nowhere in any of the arayot in the Torah that are listed, and there are a bunch of them listed there, nowhere does it say Al tikrav. Only by the nidah does it say that. Al tikrav legalot erva. So meaning what? Legalot erva is the Torah's nice way of saying a person is not allowed to have relations with his wife when she is in a state of nidah. Whether it's while she's having her menstrual cycle or until she finishes counting the clean days, so she can go to mikveh. During that time, a person is asur to have relations with his wife, and the punishment for that is karet, very, very strong punishment. But the Torah then says, al tikrav, which means from here we learn that there's another isur in the Torah called hibuk and nishuk, that a person is forbidden from the Torah to hug and to kiss his wife when she's in nidah. If a person does hibuk and nishuk, he's chayav malkot, he's chayav lashes. Why? Because it's a lo ta'aseh, al tikrav. Why did the Torah do that? Because regarding your wife, this is a woman that is available to you. She's at home. Most of the arayot, for a person, chas v'shalom, to be over on the arayot, they got to go someplace where nobody knows them. They got to go hide. This is in your private, in your home. She's there. So therefore the Torah says, I have to put a fence around this, because if we're not careful, it's very, very easy. If a man is allowed to hug and kiss his wife when she's in nidah, then what's going to happen? It doesn't take long. No one has to figure out too much to realize within a short period of time, you're doing the sin, you're having relations with her. So the Torah itself builds a fence around itself regarding this, to say, Al Tikrav, you're not allowed to come close to her, which means you're not allowed to hug her, you're not allowed to kiss her. And this is from the Yisur Doraita. From here we have a siyag. The Torah builds a fence around herself. Now we see that the Chachamim did the same thing. They build a fence around the Torah in order to protect it. Okay. Baruch Adonai Olam, amen ve'amen. Rabbi Hanania.